America and China are in a new kind of nuclear arms race, but this time, it's not about weapons. It's about energy, and for the first time in generations, America is facing something it hasn't had to confront before: an energy shortage that threatens its economic future. Right now, China is outpacing the United States by at least a decade in nuclear power development. And if American companies don't lead this next energy revolution, the jobs, the wealth, and the technological dominance won't be built in America. They'll be built in China. Today, the United States is still the world's largest nuclear energy producer, operating 94 reactors across the country. But that lead is shrinking fast. China already operates 58 reactors, and over the next 10 years, it plans to build more than 150 more. Even more concerning, China's nuclear technology is already years ahead of every other nation. This shift could mark the beginning of a historic decline in American global power. Throughout history, whoever controlled energy controlled the future. And that has never been more true than it is today. By 2050, global energy consumption is expected to nearly double. Artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, quantum computing, robotics, the technologies that will define the 21st century, require unfathomable amounts of power. But America's electrical grid simply cannot keep up. According to recent estimates, the United States will need to expand power generation by as much as 50% by 2040 just to meet demand. Yet with current infrastructure and projects, it's on track to grow by only about 20%. And if the backbone of American industry can't supply enough energy, it doesn't matter how advanced the technology is. Progress slows, costs rise, and competitors surge ahead. There is only one energy source capable of filling this gap quickly, reliably, and at scale: nuclear power. But here's the problem: over the last 50 years, America has successfully built just 2 nuclear power plants. And today, despite all the talk of a revival, it is building precisely 0. While the United States spent decades trapped in political gridlock, each administration reversing the last, China scaled its nuclear program with ruthless efficiency. And now, it's approaching an inflection point. This is the story of one of the most important races of the 21st century, one that could define the future of global power. So what exactly is happening in the new nuclear arms race? And if America tries to catch up, will it already be too late? In many ways, human progress has always been tied to energy. Before the Industrial Revolution, we relied on the sun for warmth, animals for labor and transportation, and wind and water to power simple machines. Coal then powered steam engines, factories, railways, and the first electrical generators. By the late 1800s, oil fueled internal combustion engines and transformed transportation forever. And during World War II, humanity discovered the immense energy locked inside the atom. At first, nuclear power revealed itself in the most destructive way imaginable. But almost immediately, American scientists and policymakers realized something profound: that same power could light cities instead of destroying them. Nuclear energy promised clean, reliable electricity on a scale never seen before. The U.S. government quickly planned to build hundreds of nuclear power plants across the country. This wasn't just about energy. It was about competition. America and the Soviet Union were locked in a struggle not only for military dominance, but for technological supremacy. Nuclear power was the ultimate symbol of modernity and strength. And for good reason. Nuclear energy is powerful, clean, and incredibly efficient. A single plant can power entire cities without filling the sky with smoke. It uses far less land than any other energy source, roughly 60 times more efficient than solar and more than 100 times more efficient than hydropower. The towering cooling towers don't release smoke at all, only water vapor. Even more remarkable, a single uranium pellet no larger than your thumb contains as much energy as a ton of coal or 100 barrels of oil. From the bow and arrow to the steam engine to the microchip, every major leap in human progress has come from a leap in energy. And economically, the pattern is clear. When nations consume more energy, their wealth rises with it. Energy isn't just power, it's prosperity. America's early success made it the undisputed global leader in nuclear energy. Which makes what happened next so baffling. In 1973, several Arab nations banned oil exports to countries that supported Israel, including the United States. In just months, oil prices quadrupled. For the first time, industrialized nations realized how vulnerable they were. Nuclear power once again seemed like the perfect solution, efficient, reliable, and independent of foreign oil. A second oil crisis in 1979 only strengthened that belief. Then everything changed. In March 1979, a reactor at the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant in Pennsylvania partially melted due to a mechanical failure. It was America's first nuclear accident. No one died, there was no measurable environmental damage, and there were no proven health effects from radiation. But the media coverage was explosive. Public fear spread instantly, protests erupted, the plant was shut down. Trust in nuclear power collapsed. More than half of Americans changed their opinion on whether new nuclear plants should be built. In response, the government imposed a wave of new safety regulations. While well-intentioned, they made nuclear plants exponentially more complex, expensive, and time-consuming to build. One reactor in Tennessee began construction in 1973 and didn't become operational until 2016 to 43 years later. Projects were abandoned, uranium mines shut down, plans for new reactors were canceled. Almost overnight, America's nuclear momentum vanished. Fear crossed the Atlantic, Europe followed suit, and in 1986, disaster struck again. A reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in Soviet Ukraine exploded, releasing massive radiation across Europe. Public opinion turned decisively against nuclear power. The West abandoned it almost entirely. For the first time since the Industrial Revolution, progress in energy stalled. But while the West froze, China saw an opportunity. In the late 1970s, China began rapidly industrializing. Unlike the West, it thought in generations, not election cycles. Coal powered its rise, cheap, reliable, but devastatingly polluting. And China knew coal wouldn't last forever. Its oil and gas reserves were limited. Even coal would eventually run out. So China made a decision. If coal powered its rise, nuclear would power its future. China's first reactor began construction in 1984. By the time it came online in 1991, the United States had essentially stopped building. Through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, America launched no meaningful new nuclear projects. China, meanwhile, built dozens, along with mines, refineries, research universities, and a complete nuclear supply chain. 2 decades passed. America stood still. China surged ahead. Today, China is building reactors at a scale and speed the West can't match. Costs fall with every new plant. Designs are standardized. Supply chains tighten. Timelines shrink. Efficiency compounds. In contrast, American nuclear costs have exploded, from about $1 per watt in the 1970s to as much as $15 today. Every plant is treated as a one-off project. There is no system, no repetition, no learning curve, and now, the gap is widening technologically. China operates the world's first fourth-generation nuclear reactor. It leads in small modular reactors, thorium reactors, and is positioned to scale nuclear fusion faster than anyone else. When breakthroughs arrive, China can turn technology into infrastructure, fast. America, by contrast, is betting heavily on private innovation. Tech giants are pouring billions into experimental reactors to power AI data centers. But the industrial base needed to build at scale has largely disappeared. Heavy forging capacity is gone. Supply chains are fractured. Skilled labor is scarce. This is a clash of systems. American capitalism thrives on innovation but struggles with long-term infrastructure. China's centralized planning excels at building, scaling, and executing strategy over decades. By every measurable standard, China is winning the nuclear energy race. It's building faster, cheaper, more efficiently, with better coordination and a complete supply chain. And if nuclear truly is the future of energy, then the real question becomes unavoidable. What does the world look like when America is no longer number one? Because this isn't much of a race if one country is driving a supercar, and the other is trying to catch up from a wheelchair.